So we started to learn these, these are kind of little bite-sized things that intrigued us. But then obviously once we looked into the way the Sea London Corporation operates, or how untransparent it is and how undemocratic it is, then we started to raise awareness about how, this is an organisation that should be looked at more deeply. So our response to their demand for us to leave was to send them a response, a counter-response, a counter-demand, as it were. And it was very simple. We said that we would like to see your cash register records, your cash records since 2008, your history of lobbying, which remains secret. And we also want you to be open to the Freedom of Information Act.
It was quite interesting, the way they had to move from Paternoster Square to the steps of St Paul's actually provoked a different kind of debate, which in some ways was more difficult and more nuanced than it might have been had they just been sitting outside the Stock Exchange.
Certainly, because I think that one of those narratives is that the idea of the church and its relation to capitalism and relation to modernity, and it's a story that doesn't really get told.
And also because one of the things that's happened with the kind of financialisation of London as a whole city is the privatisation of public space. It was absolutely symbolic of what had been happening in the city, that ordinary people were no longer given ordinary access to Paternoster Square during that whole period. It wasn't just that Occupy was thrown out, but the space then became protected, privatised space. And since a lot of what Occupy was about is the spaces of democracy, that was in itself quite iconic, quite emblematic of the whole thing they were challenging.
So London grew hugely in size, but it grew in size as a population, not as a civic institution. So you had the City of London, which was strictly a square mile, and you had the development of very serious settlement around, most important bit at that time, of Westminster, Southwark, Whitechapel to the east, and Holborn or Finsbury to the north. And thus began an attempt, which happened in all other European cities, to extend the city's authority to the new population. Now, very interestingly, the city always refused to extend. So what you had with William the Conqueror and the recognition, which was verified in a number of charters since, was a recognition of the autonomy of the city. The city was part of the ancient constitution. There was the monarchy, there was Parliament, there was the city, and there was the church.
So this is Cheapside, the street connecting St Paul's Cathedral just over there, with the Bank of England and the Royal Exchange down that way. It was the historic heart of medieval London, the Oxford Street of its day, where merchants would bring goods from right around the surrounding countryside, and even more exotic products they would wheel up from the docks to the street stalls along here. Now, those stalls are gone. It's been replaced by a series of trendy coffee chains and expensive clothes shops, many of whom, ironically enough, are dodging tax.
There won't be much of the traditional nativity narrative at the midnight mass sermon in St Thomas's, Hackney. The Reverend William Taylor used to be a City of London councillor. In his sermon, he'll launch a broadside against the city.
It now sees itself as being a